Okay. Okay, can you hear me? To respect everyone's time, we'll go ahead and get started. There's a couple people still signing in out there, but I want to make sure we keep moving. So, welcome tonight. Thank you for coming out. My name is Linda Bridwell. I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. And this is our public comment meeting for case number 2025-00257 for Kentucky Power's adjustment of their rates. It's their application in their case. So I'll go ahead and get started. The agenda tonight, it's going to be a very, very high-level presentation by me about the case, some of the information that's in the case and the process of the case, how it goes along. There's a little bit of introduction about the Public Service Commission. And then there is a Q&A period, but I want to make sure that I emphasize that that is just about the process of the case. And I'll explain a little bit more, and then we'll go into the public comment period. The commissioners will give a little brief overview, and then they will invite anyone to speak. And once we go into that, I want to make sure that I emphasize tonight, our purpose for being here is to hear from you. It's not required, but we want to make sure that we come out in the communities that our utilities serve and listen to the public comments and make it convenient for you. We will also have lots of other ways for you to comment on the case. But I want to make sure everybody understands here, we are not here making a presentation on the details of what's in the application. We're not advocating for the utility. The utility is not making a presentation tonight. The Public Service Commission really is looking at how to balance what's been requested with what is fair, just, and reasonable, and that's the statutory authority that we have. So I want to make sure, and if you are sitting here tonight and you came out because you were expecting to hear a lot of information about what's in the case and you're not feeling comfortable, I mean, I will give you the information about the record in the case, but if you're not feeling comfortable about making public comments tonight because you were expecting to get more information, that's fine. I'll explain to you there's lots of different opportunities for you to make public comment along the way. So we'll keep moving in that. So first, just a quick overview. If you don't know who the Public Service Commission is, and as an employee, I find out when we go across the state, most people don't know who we are. We were created in 1934 by the legislature. It's a 3-member administrative body appointed by the governor with quasi-judicial duties, and that's what I want to emphasize again. So the commission only speaks through its orders, and it really serves as the judge in the case, and that's why we're not up here providing a question and answer about the case. It would be just like you going into court and trying to ask the judge details about what the parties have put in. That's really... But again, we want an opportunity for people in the community that the utility serves to comment and to hear from them as we're making the decisions. The commission regulates more than 1,100 utilities across the state. We're funded by an assessment that's paid for by all utilities based on the utility's annual gross interstate or Kentucky revenues. Interstate revenues. So again, the statutory standard is every utility shall furnish adequate, efficient, and reasonable service at fair, just, and reasonable rates. And that's really the job of the commission, is to determine what is fair, just, and reasonable rates to serve. So the reason that we exist is utilities in Kentucky are not competitive, but they're monopolies. So their rates and service, and those two items, rates and service, are regulated by the Public Service Commission. The utility rates and services are regulated to protect against the risk of poor service and monopoly profits in excess of what's reasonable. So again, and you'll hear me emphasizing this, changing utility rates is a legal process. So that's why they serve in this quasi-judicial role. It's governed by statutes and regulations. So it's the General Assembly sets the policy based in the statutes, and it's the Public Service Commission's duty to carry them out. So the process is, like I said, it's a legal process. The case has a statutory deadline, but it does have a process that it goes through. So first, the utility files the application. And that's, again, all in the record that's available for the public to review. There is almost always written testimony where the company will explain why it's submitting the application. Parties may intervene, and they must be represented by an attorney to intervene in the case. Again, this is a legal process, so you have an attorney representing you in the hearings. The parties respond to the request for information, so they'll go back and forth on discovery. A lot of it is written, but it's just like if you watch CSI or Law and Order or something, it's a lot of back and forth of asking questions. Then we'll host an evidentiary hearing, and there will be a live cross-examination of the witnesses. And then the final order is the deciding matter. And the commission, the 3 commissioners, issue that final order, and again, they speak through their orders. So sometimes we'll get phone calls from the press wanting to, can you comment on the order? Can you explain this? No, they speak through the order. That's how they provide the information. The public comments can be filed at any time that the case is open. So I want to make sure that you can present them orally during defined periods, or you can certainly, at any time, there's an opportunity for written comments, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. So the rates must enable the utility to provide adequate service, maintain its financial integrity, attract investors, including favorable term loans. And I want to make sure that I try and explain this each time. So the U.S. Supreme Court has determined that rates that don't meet that function are considered unconstitutional. It's a taking. Now, of course, again, finding where that balance is and what's determined to be fair, just, and reasonable is really the hard part of the case, right? So Kentucky Power. Let's talk just a little bit about them as a utility. I'm just going to mention they generate and purchase electricity, distribute and sell electricity in all or portions of 20 counties in eastern Kentucky. They have 162,000 customers total. They're a wholly owned subsidiary of American Electric Power, and their last rate increase in base rates was in January of 2024. So the proposed increase in electric rates will result in a $95.6 million additional revenues, or 14.62%. The proposed average monthly residential electric bill, this is the average, will increase $27 or 14.9% for customers using 1,208 kilowatt hours per month. According to the application, the request for increase is primarily driven by allowing the company to operate successfully, maintain financial integrity, attract capital, recover fuel costs, and support investments from the Mitchell plant. So, just a little bit more about what Kentucky Power has asked for, in addition to the increase in the revenues, is removing storm expenses from base rates. So they would be a surcharge for storm expenses, create a new generation rider to recover Mitchell plant capital balances, create a voluntary prepayment system associated with your, and I put the AMI, but that is the automated meter information system, I believe. So that's the meters that are read through the internet, the AMI. The voluntary prepayment system is called FlexPay. A declining energy block for residential customers, and what that means is that if you use more power, the upper block, the per kilowatt hour would be cheaper. There's a dividing line, and the first base rates are more expensive, and then as you go up, and the higher block is actually a declining block or a cheaper rate. And then also a two-tiered residential customer charge, meaning that if you're at the base rate amount, it's one charge, and if you are up into that higher usage, then the customer charge actually increases for you. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, there are intervening parties that can petition. And in this case, I want to explain, first of all, so as I said, you have the utility making the application, the commissioners serve as the judge. The other side of it is the Attorney General's office. So the Attorney General's office has the statutory responsibility to be the advocate for customers. And that's all customers, not just residential customers, but their statutory obligation is they are the advocate for customers. In addition to that, a group called the Kentucky Industrial Utility Council, or the KIUC, has intervened. They have a lawyer that is representing them. The Kentucky Solar Industries Association has intervened. The SWVA, which is a steel customer, has intervened. And then there is a group of joint interveners, which means they go together and hire one attorney. They may hire witnesses, but they'll do that jointly. It's a group that includes the Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, the Kentucky Solar Energy Society, the Mountain Association, and the Appalachian Citizens Law Center. So those are the parties that are also providing testimony, asking questions of Kentucky Power in the application. So just to give you an idea of what the next steps are. So we are in that back and forth discovery process. We are also hosting 3 public meetings. The commission is hosting 2, and again, we recognize if you would like to add your public comments, and but you don't want to come to Frankfort, or it's not convenient for you to Frankfort, we're trying to get out into the communities to listen. There's tonight's meeting here in Pikeville. December 18th is in Hazard, and January 8th is in Ashland. So if you know somebody that lives in that area, or that might know somebody that couldn't come tonight but might be interested, those will also be available for public comments. I will tell you that the comments tonight, in addition to the commissioners hearing them tonight, we are recording this. It's not live streaming out over Facebook, but it is recording, and your comments will be in the public record. It takes us about 24 hours to load that video. So my presentation and any comments you make will be in the record, so anybody can go back and look at that and see those public comments that were made. One of our commissioners is ill and not with us tonight. She will go back and watch those public comments that go on tonight. The hearing will begin on Tuesday, January 13th, our evidentiary hearing after the first of the year at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will continue for several days. There will be public comments accepted in Frankfort on the morning of the hearing, at the start of the hearing on January 13th. Now, I will tell you, during COVID, we did virtual comments that you could get online and on a Zoom call and offer at the start of the hearing your public comments that way. It's really a technology challenge for us to get that in the record as well, and so we've had the last few hearings, we haven't had very many people, or any on a couple cases, that have asked to do the virtual. They either come out to the public comments or they offer them on an email address. And so we have stopped that. But if you are interested in making public comments other than tonight, there are a couple other different options. So the final order to be entered by statute has to be entered by June 29th, 2026. I will tell you that there has been a request to have the rates in place. I believe it's March 1st, 2026. So with all of that said, I do want to, let me go through the slide, and then I'm going to put up the last, because I said there's lots of opportunities for you to public comment. Maybe you are not comfortable now that I've told you you're going to be on video, or maybe you don't want to get up and speak in front of this group. There is an opportunity. There's a couple other ways to submit public comments. Or if you get home tonight and you think, oh, I really meant to say that, you can email. We have an email address, which I'll put up here in a minute. Or we actually have on our website, you can go in and search the case number and just post it, and it automatically posts your comment. And all you have to do is put your name in so that we know who it is that made this comment. You can also, if you like, write an old-fashioned letter and mail it. Again, all of the public comments go in the record in the case. And I just want to make sure that if you are interested in finding out more about what's in the case, and I kind of joke about it, is all of these cases are volumes and volumes of paper. But all of our records, other than the confidential material, which there are some things that are under state law allowed to be confidential, if you go into our website to do the public comments, you hit the Contact Us tab and to submit a comment or ask about a case. The email address is also listed here, and then our mailing address. But you can also go in and search the cases and find, and that's why I've got the case number on there. So if you don't have it in your head right at the tip of it, if you want to take a picture on your phone, because to search the case to find the record and all the information in the case and maybe who else has made comments or something else, if you want to read through those, that is, you need that case number. So, and even when you make the public comment, if you do the web form, you'll need that case number. If you send an email, if you can reference the case number, it helps us considerably. If you say, my name is Jane Doe and I'm a customer of Kentucky Power and I want to make a comment on the rate case, we'll find a way to make sure it gets in the record. But it does help our staff considerably if we know exactly which case you're referring to. Sometimes we will get them in, and we do have about 500 cases a year between all the different utilities. Not all rate cases, but sometimes a utility may have 2 or 3 cases about projects, and it's hard for us to figure out which one it is if you just mention the utility. So make sure you kind of pinpoint a little bit so we know when we get those comments so they go in the record. So my guess is y'all are eager to make public comments, but I just want to make sure if there are any questions about the process of the case. Again, I can't answer questions about the case itself, the details, the information in it. But if you have information about the process, I'm happy to answer those, or I'm happy to just go ahead and let you all start making public comments. Do I have anybody that wants to talk about the process or ask a question? My guess is y'all are eager to let your voices be heard. Yes, ma'am.
Did I hear you say that the final judgment will be
June 29th, 26th by statute? It has to be completed by then. So there's called a suspension period, and they can put the rates into effect if we have not issued the order, and that is coming up in earlier than that June period. So that's why we're trying to target to get the order out. They're subject to refund. They put them in effect, but then when the final order comes out, and it makes it very confusing for the customers. So that's why it kind of shortens the period we have to review it, but we're trying to get it out before then. Does that help? Okay. Yes, sir.
Can you go back to the slide that tells the aggregate amount of this rate increase? Fast.
Yeah. So the $95.6 million in additional revenues is what's been requested. Okay. Okay. Any other process cases or questions? If not, I will turn it over to the chair. She's going to have a few comments, and then we'll turn it over to you all. So.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. We do appreciate that you came out, whether you decided to speak or not speak. We're glad you're here and taking an interest. My name is Angie Hatton. I'm chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission, and joining me tonight is Commissioner Andrew Wood. Mary Pat Regan is the other commissioner, and she couldn't join us tonight because she's feeling under the weather, as Linda said. I'll just remind everybody, I know that emotions are high in a case like this. They always are. Just be respectful of one another. Don't talk while other people are talking. And we're going to set a time limit of 5 minutes. So when you come up, you'll come to this microphone here. You'll say your full name and your address, and then we'll start the timer. And the timer is for all of you, just as a courtesy, because if someone wants to get up and talk for 2 hours, others may have to get home to their children or other obligations and not be able to have a comment if we let people go that long. So we do 5 minutes apiece. But as Linda said, this is not your only opportunity. We'll have public comment hearings in Hazard and in Ashland and in Frankfort on the day that the hearing starts in January. So you can come in person any of those 3 days, or you can always email or write us, and that will still go into the record all the way up until we close the record. So we are not required to come out for a public comment hearing. We do it because we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you have to say. And even though we can't answer your questions tonight because we're the judges and the judges can't answer questions about a case before they've heard it, we often, if you watch our hearings, will ask questions during the hearing of witnesses that we've heard at the public comment hearings. So if you come up with a good question that we don't know the answer to, we may ask it on the stand. You can watch our hearings live on YouTube. They're lengthy, but they're of interest to you. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. The people who indicated yes that they wanted to speak, I'll call their names first, and then I'll go back through. And anyone who hadn't decided that they wanted to speak at the beginning and changed their mind and wants to, you'll get that opportunity. And we're going to stay here until everybody gets a chance to speak, if that's what you want to do. So first I'll go through the yeses, and then I can go back through. I know there are a number of public officials here tonight. If any of them need to go first, I'm okay with, just raise your hand if you are in a hurry. Okay. If not, I'll just call you in the order you signed in. Okay. All right. Well, without anything further, I'll go ahead then. And the first person who indicated yes on the list given to me was Neil Warren. And I apologize if I mispronounce your name or can't read your writing. My handwriting is terrible, and I will do my very best, but forgive me. Commissioner Wood's going to do my timer for me. Full name and address, please, sir.
It could take longer than 5 minutes, but I live over at Hardy, Kentucky. I'm on the Randall McCoy home place. And I'm sorry you're filming. I have a radio face. I don't have a TV face. My problem started back, and I'm cutting into it early because I want to be cut short. I live over at Hardy. They started back in the early middle teens, staking out poles, running a new pole line. They actually ran a fiber optic cable up through Hardy over down to Blackberry Mountain, over to Peter Creek, to God knows where, for the power company. Our problem started, our power kicking off and on. Boom, boom, boom. Modems on the internet. My air conditioner. I'm not going through all this, but since then I've had 5 capacitors at an outer thermostat outside unit that defrosts and comes off and on. After about the third one coming in, my heating and cooling unit guy says, "Neil, what are you doing?" I said, "Buddy, I don't know." Power kicked off and on. He went, "Does that happen all the time?" I said, "Yes." He says, "That's what's killing you." So I've had an outdoor motor, $480. By the way, I'm on Social Security. I don't get the 18%. I get 2.4, 2.8. My new buddy here is going to give you some stats, and I haven't even met him. I've had 5 capacitors in the last 3 years, the outer thermostat. June, I had a new heat pump put in. Now, why did I bring all of this? Well, I had a friend that works over here at the power company. She retired this past year, Vanessa. Been there between 35 and 40 years. She says, you can call and tell them if it's stuff like that. Sometimes the power company will reimburse you. Well, I turned those in, and I got a real nice letter from a man by the name of T.J. Bryan. It's Kentucky Power's practice to honor any claim for damages for which they are responsible. Generally, we are responsible for damages that result from negligence. We are not responsible for damages that do not cause the result from forces beyond our control. For example, most instances are not responsible for power outages, voltage fluctuations, property damage caused by weather, vandalism, so forth. Got duplicate letters because I made 2 reports. One was from, by the way, I'm not used to this, so you can forgive me. May 23rd of 2022, December 6th of 2022. Duplicate letters with the number on it. They're not paying. It's a nice way of calling me a liar that says this is going on. So I started documenting. January 23. From January 20th, off and on. And by the way, even if I'm not home, the power kicks off and comes back on, the lights on the stove are blinking. They don't lose time. They just blink and you set it. If it loses an hour or 2, then I know how long it's been off. 6 times in 2023 it was off during either rain, wind, storms, or whatever. It was off a total of 26 times. January 20, 4:05. On and off, 4:09, back on and off. I don't have time to do this because you've cut me short here. Off, back and on, beautiful day. May the 29th, beautiful day outside, 10 a.m., off and on, May 17th. Twice on May 18th. May 20th, off and on. 6/14, June the 14th. The day, off and on, beautiful day, on down. Go to 2024, January 15th, off and back on around 5 p.m. 1/28, 2:38 p.m., on down. Now, 2024, it was off 21 times. 1, 2, 3 times it was raining. No storms, it was raining. And each one of these, off and back on. But even when I'm not home, I can come back and see that clock blink, and did it lose time or did it? It was off and back on. Every one of these, I'm telling you, are off and back on. Well, back to 2023, the power company called. I talked to Tom Manning. They sent a guy by who took my meter base off and put one on to register. I just knew for 2 weeks it wasn't going to do it. It cut off 2 times while they checked it. Now, halfway through that, they tell me it possibly could be a reclosure, whatever that is. 2024, that many times off. They sent a power company crew up. They're going to replace my transformer. I've got a 5-ton unit. I said, well, buddy, what about my neighbors who's losing capacitors and up and down the road? Well, nobody's reported. I said, I didn't report. You don't report power off and back on. I'm reporting the damage it's done to my equipment. Off and on, off and on, off and on. 2025, this year, June, I had a new heat pump put in, $12,500. It was off and on 33 times. They put all new power lines, new poles, trimmed the right-of-ways. I'm on Social Security. This money's supposed to help them improve. When they can keep my power on, I'll be for it. They can't even keep my power on. And that's a little quick of what's happened. Got a new heat pump in June. In September, the power kicked off and on, and it made the motor underneath run and the one outside not. It's already brand new, big carrier, 5-ton unit. I'm just telling you, that's my problem. And I was reading this up here. It is about making money and your stockholders. I know all about the Public Service Commission. I worked 35 years for Verizon in West Virginia, splicing fiber and cable. I know about them. And you got to keep the stockholders happy too. That's a lot of this that's going on. Thank you, and I'm sorry for running my mouth. But just let me go.
Thank you. The next person who indicated yes is Suzanne Barker Griffith.
Hello, I'm Suzanne Barker Griffith. On February 12, 2025, Cynthia Wiseman, COO of Kentucky Power, stated to the Kentucky Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee in Frankfort that ultimately what we would like for you to take away from this meeting is that our priorities are the same as yours: stabilize and lower rates to reduce rate volatility. I think the Kentucky PSC should help out Ms. Wiseman with this priority and completely deny this unjust rate hike. If you're going to say it to senators, you need to mean it. Ironically, with just 6 months later, Kentucky Power requested yet another rate hike. According to PSC records in 2010, the residential rate was 0.0864 per kilowatt. In 2024, the rate was up to 0.1507 for a 74% rate increase. The 14.9 rate increase would lead to the rate going up 100% since 2010. In comparison, the normal rate of inflation between 2010 and 2026 is 53%. Our rates going up at almost twice the normal rate of inflation is not sustainable for ratepayers, especially when paired with the high rates of poverty across the service area. going to cut this down a little bit. Currently, Kentucky Power customers pay the highest average bill in the state at approximately $190. The rate hike would put this to be around $218. Kentucky Power representatives would have you believe this is due to excess consumption over the state average. What they do not say is how much less the average residential customer uses. According to PSC records in 2010, the average Kentucky Power residential customer used 1,523 kilowatts. In 2024, the amount was dropped to 1,183 kilowatts for a 22% decrease. People are suffering out there already. They're doing everything that they possibly can to reduce their bills. I've talked to grandmas that are sleeping in housecoats. I've talked to parents that are bundling up the kids. I've talked to people that have propane tanks now. I've talked to people that have moved to Tennessee and all the way around. So anyway, they're doing it, and the kids are turning off the lights. In Kentucky, the average energy burden, that's how much energy bills are in comparison to income, is 3%, according to the Kentucky Energy Affordability Dashboard. Anything over 6% is considered high. For the Kentucky service areas, that goes from 6.3% to 16%, and that was before the 5.66 rate hike and the 6.37 securitization charge and the approximately $5.97 that was added to your bills on October 15th. It is very apparent by reading the public comments in this case and having personal conversations with ratepayers and looking at statistics that many people are already struggling to pay their bills. And I would especially like you all to read and pay attention to the testimony by Roger D. Colton that's on your website. It was very good and very thorough. And trust me, people do want to talk about this issue. I've talked to hundreds of people. Sadly, in June of 2025, when Kentucky Power had community listening sessions, they only listened to invited guests with titles behind their names. To me, if you want to listen to the community, you should open up the meetings to the community. And one of the suggestions was that they put boots on the ground. But I can tell you, I went to all kinds of festivals this fall talking to people and giving out information. You know who wasn't there? Kentucky Power. They weren't there, but I was, because I was educating people on this, and shame on them. In addition to this rate case, another big expense is on the horizon. One of Mitchell's 2 concrete towers is failing structurally and needs to be reinforced. And that's going to cost between, looks like, $375 million or $356 million. Well, guess what? We don't have that money. My gosh. And they made us buy that. They made us pull out of Louisa, and they made us buy that old plant. Shame on them. In conclusion, I ask you to fully deny Kentucky Power's proposed rate hike. Just like families in Eastern Kentucky, Kentucky Power needs to learn to budget within the means available. The continual and all too regular request to raise rates is harmful to our families, our businesses, while doing nothing to attract much needed industry to our area. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next on my list is Jeffrey Little.
Jeffrey Little from Little Creek here in Pike County. I'm a retired school teacher, and I want to read something from the Kentucky Power website. This is when they were giving their reasons for the rate increase. Quote, "There's no doubt the cost of providing electricity to homes and businesses have become more expensive across our nation, but especially in Eastern Kentucky. I want to put an emphasis on this next point. They use the loss of population and industry. The loss of population. This is what I'm about to read to you, comes right off Kentucky Power's financial statement. Their last financial statement. In the 9 months that ended in 2024, they had net revenues of $55,017,000. This year, at the 9 months ending in September 2025, they had a net revenue of $577,828,000. That's a 10.5% increase. It increased by 35,017,000. Their operating income. I'm going to emphasize operating income because I'm going to compare my operating income with their operating income. Their operating income increased by 34.5%. My operating income, I'm on fixed income, teacher retirement, and a little bit of Social Security. Social Security the cost of living this coming year for Social Security was 2.8%. The statutory limit on teacher retirement is 1.5%. You average that out, it comes to about 2.15%. So my operating income is going to increase by 2.5%. Their operating income has increased by 34%. And they're asking for a 15% rate increase? Give me a break. Now, net income. Their net income increased by $16 million over the same two periods. $16 million. Remember what I said when I first started, loss of population. Population in Pike County went down by 600 people over that same time period. Think about that. They lost population, but yet saying they need a rate increase because they lose population, yet they made money. Now, I can go on about population increase. Now, my statistics may be old. Everything that I'm quoting here, every dollar amount, every rate, can be found on either the PSC's website, Kentucky Power's website, the Department of Energy's website, or the U.S. Census website. Everything. I'm not made anything up. I want to close. I could go on about my rate increase and how much. It's personal. It's personal for me as a teacher, as a former teacher, seeing my kids that I taught in this county have to leave in order to afford to live in this county. There is not a county in Tennessee that has a higher energy burden than Pike County, Kentucky. There's not a county in North Carolina that has a higher energy burden than Pike County. There's not a county in Florida that has a higher energy burden than the people of Pike County. I quoted a statistic a while ago, and I was corrected on this one. By what I found, 19% of the households in Pike County live in poverty. Gentleman back here a while ago said that's not the latest. The latest is 27%. 27% of our neighbors live in poverty. I'm fortunate. I have been blessed in my life. I have been blessed. Some of my neighbors aren't as blessed as I am. I could be here talking about myself. I'm here for my neighbors. I'm angry at what Kentucky Power has done. They left this, they had a rate increase declined. They filed a suit in Franklin Circuit Court instead of in a court in the district that they serve. And you know what happened? They got it. The rate denial got overturned by a court in Frankfurt. That makes us not trust anything that goes on. And I'm through. I know my time's about up, but I'm through. If you can't tell my passion, I'm passionate about this. And I started to say at the beginning, I'm a teacher by profession. I'm a Baptist minister by calling, and you probably heard both of them.
Thank you. Next on the list is Mayor Scott.
You would pick me to go after that fine gentleman. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a teacher, but you did an excellent job there. I'm here today as the mayor of Coal Run, Kentucky, and one of the things that I think is important that I want you guys to look at as this case is being considered is the fact that in February 2025, on February the 15th, the city of Coal Run woke up to the worst natural disaster that we have had in over 50 years. Couple that with the fact that from the February 2025 floods, the city of Coal Run, where the Kentucky Power main plant is located, was one of the worst hit portions of all of Commonwealth, and certainly in eastern Kentucky during that flooding event. I know that there's some things that you got that the power company had asked for in recouping costs for storm damage and all that kind of stuff, and I understand where they're coming from. But here's the issue: I have residents who are still living in temporary shelters. I have elderly couples, elderly single couples, widows, widowers calling me at City Hall because their power's been cut off because they can't afford it as it is. When their power gets cut off too, you've additionally got an actual cost that goes on top of that. So you cut off their power, and if they scrounge up the $300 or $400, right, to get it turned back on, then they've got to have an electrical inspector come out, which adds about another $200 to the cost. So my concern for the residents of Coal Run is we've already been knocked down. Right now, we're trying to get back up. And what I hope that you all consider is that the residents that I represent in Coal Run, they don't have a PSC that they can take their checkbook to and say, hey, raise our rate or raise our income by 27%. They can't say raise us up by $2,000 or $3,000 a month. If we could, then this would be fine. What I will tell you is I've seen this time and time again with utility companies, and I'm not, utility companies have got to do what utility companies do. They've got to be able to provide the service. They've got to be able to have the means to do it. But at the same time, we have to be compassionate about the people who are in the situation, who are vulnerable, and who are needing electricity but can't afford it. I know people who are using propane heaters. They're not even using electricity. They don't have electricity turned on right now. But let me start out, and in closing, I want to give you some facts. What really concerns me about all this is that, and this was alluded to earlier, back in 2015, I believe it was given that the consumption cost was lower. Let me tell you why the consumption cost was lower. Because in 2009, here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, we were actually, in the first quarter of 2009, we had 15,688 coal jobs here in the eastern Kentucky coal fields, which is 23 counties here in eastern Kentucky, right? We had 15,000 at the beginning of Q1. You go back to the end of Obama's term, at the end of Q1 in 2016, you had barely 4,000 left. Actually, you had less than 3,000. We mined, so that's a sway of negative 11,900 jobs that we've lost in eastern Kentucky in just a short period of time, in just an 8-year span of a presidential election, when he's moving from coal source-based energy to other types of energy. And that's what I think is important here. We mined 22 million tons of coal in the first quarter of 2009. And by the end of the second quarter of 2016, those numbers were barely 4 million, which is a 83% decline in coal. So while, yes, we may be using less energy now than we did before, while the numbers have gone up, guess what? The costs have gone up because we've abandoned coal. What I would say to you guys is, if you decide, and my main point here in saying this, and I'm appreciative of linemen, I'm appreciative of all the people that are out there. They helped get the power back on at Coal Run after the floods. This is not personal. But what I would say is, if this rate is accepted and the additional costs are incurred, which, again, the families of Coal Run can't do, but if it is, and AEP is able, Kentucky Power is able to prevail on this case, I do hope that they will consider putting a lot of that money back into energy sources that can be found right here at home, and employ the people here in Pike County, here in the 23 coal-producing counties that Kentucky Power serves. With that being said, I know my time's up. That's all I have to say, but I want to thank you guys for your time.
All right, thank you. The next person who indicated yes on my list is Tina Lamb.
Mine ain't on paper, Mine's just an opinion. My husband has worked since he was 16 years old. He was part of that coal mining era. He also has bile duct liver cancer. Back in 2023, when we tried to get his Social Security that he's worked for, he is 57, if you need to know. Anyhow, back in 23, whenever we tried to get his Social Security, because of Eric C. Kahn, we got kicked out of that. And the judges even told my husband, "Your judges has been paid off." That was his exact quote. Well, since then, we have got SSI, $967 a month. My light bill is $442 this month. I do not use my electric heat because I cannot afford to use my electric heat. I use propane. I go to Community Action and they write me a voucher for 3 tanks of propane. That's how I'm heating my house. You all talk about moving people out of this town. It ain't no wonder. I have a buddy and family that live in Tennessee, and she told me her light bill was $60 this month, and she lives in a house. I've got it on my text. I can show it to you. So I'm like, you know, in order for me and him to live on $967 a month SSI before he leaves this world, I don't understand why we can't just pick up and move to Tennessee. But you know what? It takes money to move too, because then you got to go out there and you either got to rent or you got to buy in order to get that cheaper electric bill. But if we stay here before this winter's over, I'll guarantee you our lights is turned off. And as far as me, I'm half blind. That's the reason why I got on 2 pairs of glasses. I just won't embarrass myself to put them on. So I can't go to work, and I'm 55 years old. So I think that everybody should stand together. I said this room should be standing room only. Every seat in here should have been filled, and it should have been out in the parking lot. But it ain't. So just for the few of us, and I know I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for a lot of people whenever I say we are a poor community. We do live on SSI. We live on Social Security because that's the only thing that we had, which was our forefathers, and that was coal. And it's gone. So I know they do not need an increase in any way, shape, form, or fashion. They need to up their game. That's all I got to say.
I'm not 100% sure that some of these were yeses. But I also am having a little bit of trouble with writing. I'm really sorry. I can't read the signature, but someone from 1136 Upper Pompey in Raccoon. Maybe Duke Rexler. That's my guess. I probably butchered that name, and I apologize. And I will give you an opportunity at the end if you want to have an opportunity to speak. The next one on the list is Dean Tackett. Or Deanie.
Hello, I'm Deanne Tackett at 15954 Farrells Creek Road, Belcher, Kentucky. My biggest argument right now is I have lived everywhere. This is my last location, hopefully. And everywhere I've lived, there's been a co-op. Co-op of electricity, co-op of all municipals. I feel like this increase, along with the last 3 years of 30% raise, if you add it all up, is excessive for the area that we live in and the amount of people that are here, which everybody has talked about. But when I can live in Tennessee, when I can live in Arizona, when I can live in a lot of places in the United States, and I own that electric company, I get a dividend back. And my electric bill is anywhere between $60 to 150 at the most in a 2,400 square foot home. That's ridiculous. And it's not fair. The main thing is you're pushing people out. You're pushing citizens out. You're pushing people who want to work out. And this is really going to be the biggest teeter-totter of all. All I have to say at this point, it's not fair. Thank you.
Daniel Tackett. Daniel Tackett.
My name is Daniel Tackett. That was my wife. So what she's referring to is when we lived in St. David, Arizona. And my parents passed away, so I ended up with the property here in Belcher. It cost us double in our municipals to live here in a 1,000 square foot house. We have had to purchase a used pellet stove to keep our bills down in the winter. I mean, it's ridiculous. My parents lived there for over 30 years, and at times in the wintertime they would go 10 days with no electricity with a wood stove. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do that, so we ended up getting a generator. We're still paying on this generator. We've got propane to run it with. Even though we have a gas line behind the house, they're not wanting to put a plug in for us to get natural gas. So on top of paying double for what we paid in St. David, Arizona for electricity, water, I'm retired from the Federal Bureau of Prisons after 20 years. And it was a forced retirement. And we are on a fixed income. Prior military. And I mean to tell you, it is scrape by, scrape by. We came here thinking everything was going to be a little bit better than it was in Arizona. We're now in the process of possibly selling everything we have to go back. It's crazy. I mean, it's ridiculous when you have to just scrape by here on your low income, and you can drive from the Elkhorn City turnoff all the way up to Mouse Card, and any side of the road you want to look on, there's trees across the lines, there's trees on the lines. If you go up the road by the house, there are lines on the ground. We've got a telephone pole beside the house we've been trying to get replaced since we've been here. The date code on that pole, 1966. We had AEP come out and look at it. That should have already been replaced. It's been a year. The pole is leaning over on a building that needs to be torn down. That's the only thing holding it up. And when it goes, we'll be without power. We shouldn't have to purchase additional, propane or a generator or something like that to make it, because we're being gouged in eastern Kentucky on our electric bills. We wanted our grandchildren to move here from Arizona as well. Not anymore. We don't want them to have any part of that. Everywhere we look, everywhere we go, everybody's in poverty here, man. And AEP is just making it worse. So, I'm hoping that you guys will fight for the people that are here, because if not, then there's going to be a lot of us keep rolling on out. And, it's just going to get more poor and more poor. There's nothing here. There's no industry here. She's got her Class Bs and was a bus driver for 8 years in Arizona. They won't even touch her here. She's tried. She's tried to get on driving a garbage truck. It's just not happening, So we're on the verge of giving up. I mean, and this rate increase will push us over the edge if we have to deal with it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. The next on the list is Rob Elkins.
I'm Rob Elkins from Dorton, Kentucky. I don't have a lot to say, but I've sat back there and looked at that up on this, saying it'd be $27. I don't know who for, because I don't know anybody that don't pay $300 to $500 a month for their power bill. And so it'd be $50 to $75. But I have neighbors that has to choose between eating and paying their power bill. They've worked their whole lives and live off $700 and $900 a month. So this is ridiculous. We have to budget to pay our bills, and they should do the same.
Okay, next on the list, looks like Jenny Hampton.
I'm Jenny Hampton of Collins Highway, Pikeville. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Eastern Kentucky is one of the poorest regions in one of the poorest states, yet we are paying some of the highest electricity rates. It's not fair, it's not sustainable, it's not fair, just, or reasonable. When the coal industry collapsed in around 2010, 2013, families had to move away. Years ago, around that time, I called the utility company. I called Kentucky Power because they were they'd either added a fee for it or did a rate increase, and I asked them, and they told me directly that the rates were rising because fewer people lived here, so it was now costing them more to maintain it, so they were passing that cost to us now. So the rest of us are having to cover the cost for maintaining the whole system. But what that is, we are being punished for not leaving home. That's 100% what it is. I'm sorry, I get so mad. But we are being punished for staying in the hills of Eastern Kentucky. That's exactly what it seems like. We have no choice. We have no choice in our energy provider. This company has a monopoly, and because I cannot switch to another utility, I have to rely on this commission to protect me from monopoly pricing. And a company that reports billions or millions and billions of dollars in profits should not be allowed to push another rate increase onto one of the poorest regions of the state. We're not stupid. They applied for 15%. Y'all gave them half. They're applying for 15% more, hoping you give them another half so they get the original 15. Like he said, $27. It's not 27. It is my power bill is literally $300 a month. If I'm that's average. My house was built in 2019, so it's not an old house. Insulation's up to code, it's ridiculous. Utility rates in Kentucky have risen an average of 4.6 every year for 20 years, including a 34% increase over the last 5. If nothing changes, an average bill of $355 today will climb to nearly $900 in 25 years. That's my child's electric bill. I hope to still be alive in 25 years, but who knows if I can afford power? And we can't say that power is optional. It is a necessity, because if I don't have electricity, somebody's coming to take my child out of my house and put them somewhere else. So that means we have to have it. We have no choice. We can't do without it. That's exactly right. And wages and Social Security are not rising at the same pace that electricity is being allowed to raise. They say, well, we give money for energy assistance programs. That's what AEP says. Well, guess what? Congratulations. That doesn't help me. I don't qualify for those programs. And if they lowered their rates to reasonable rates, we might not even need those programs. Or we would be able to spend a significantly less amount on these programs that would take burdens off the state and off some of these community actions. but they act like they're doing something good because they're giving money to try to solve a problem they caused. I'm asking the commission to deny this rate increase or significantly reduce, I prefer deny, let's just be honest, and to require transparency and cost control before any further burden is placed on Eastern Kentucky families. We're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for fairness. So please protect the people of Eastern Kentucky who have no other option. We have no other option. Thank you.
Benjamin Hurley.
Hello. My name is Benjamin Hurley. My residential address is 5015 Upper Johns Creek Road, Kemper, Kentucky. So, the 5th Congressional District of Kentucky is the poorest congressional district in the United States. All right? Your median income is $35,000. Out of those 32 counties in that district, 20 of them are represented by Kentucky Power Company. So if you think about that, the poorest congressional district in the United States has the highest electric that you could ever think of living here. Right here in this file that I got, I have 123 letters that I got signed in 1 week. Signatures on these letters opposing this rate increase. All right? That's just 1 week. Imagine what I can get in 1 month. Imagine what I can get by the spring. So what I'm trying to say is that the Public Service Commission should definitely oppose this rate increase because, well, if you look at the statistics, the congressional district's poverty rate is 24.3%. That's 1 in every 4 people, roughly. That's unbelievable. And until we have opportunities that change this area, people don't, stop leaving, we shouldn't have rate increases. That's just the reality of it. I can understand a rate increase if we have opportunities, better jobs, better paying jobs. But until we have something like that, we shouldn't be raising people's electricity. We shouldn't be raising utilities, period. And that goes for other cases as well that have been brought up recently. So that's all I have to say. Keep it very short and sweet. If I may, I would love to give this to you. I will also be submitting these to the email that you provided. I have them in a PDF format. So.
Okay. Ashley Tackett Lafferty.
I want to begin by saying thank you for giving us this opportunity today to speak to the Public Service Commission. I am Ashley Tackett Lafferty. You'll have to forgive my voice, so I am using the microphone. I am Ashley Tackett Lafferty, and I am the state representative for all of Floyd County and part of Pike County. For many families in Eastern Kentucky, a utility bill isn't just another piece of mail. It's a source of worry. In Floyd County, some residents have already seen a rate increase on their water bills of over 20%. And now, as you know, some Pike County residents are now facing requests to raise their water bills as well. Adding 15% to an electric bill would turn that worry, that source of worry, into a real hardship for so many people here in Eastern Kentucky. Unlike the families here in Eastern Kentucky, Kentucky Power is not struggling financially. In fact, the CEO of AEP just announced on their website that its record second quarter earnings reflected the strength of its customer-focused strategy. Customer-focused strategy? Really? Over the last several years, Kentucky Power has repeatedly sought steep rate hikes on its customers here in Eastern Kentucky. In fact, one recent case before the PSC described itself as the company's original proposal, described it as excessive and disturbing. Our region already carries one of the highest energy burdens in the state, meaning the families here in Eastern Kentucky spend a much larger share of their income on utilities than other households in other parts of Kentucky. Even when the Public Service Commission reduces these requests, the result is still the same. The bills keep rising while the wages and the budget stay the same. People in Eastern Kentucky are doing everything they can to manage their utility bills. They're conserving energy. They're planning ahead. They're trying to pay their bills on time so they don't incur late fees. But they're still having to choose between medications and food each month in order to keep the lights on. And that's what we do here, right? We keep the lights on. It pushes household budgets beyond what many families can even afford. I urge the Commission to deny Kentucky Power's request for a 15% rate increase to help ensure the families here in Eastern Kentucky can keep keeping the lights on. It's not fair, and it's far from just and reasonable, and this request should be denied. Thank you.
Wayne and Lena Osborne. Looks like they are Leah. Okay, Wayne Osborne.
Hi. Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it. But I hope more than just coming, I hope you listen to what these people are telling you, and I hope you take it to heart. Because if your role is to provide just regulation of a monopoly, last year AEP made $2.97 billion in net income. And Kentucky Power is a part of that. And a lot of it is on the backs of all these people here. And we mine the coal that made Kentucky Power what it is, and now we can't do that because Kentucky Power switched to natural gas and made us pay for that conversion. Where's the justice in all of that? To back out those numbers, a 14.9% increase of $27, that means the average power bill is $181 a month. I don't know anybody that's paying $181 a month for their power bill. We're looking like $300, $400 a month. Now that may not sound like a lot. I don't know where you guys live or where, who's your power bill from. But if you're just making $900 or $1,200 a month, that's a third or a fourth of all your income just to pay your power bill. Now the water bill's going up. Drugs are going up. It's going to be where there'll be nobody here before too long. And I hate to see that happen. I've lived here all my life. I want my family to live here. I want my daughter to be able to come back here. And you don't have to go to Tennessee to get a cheaper power bill. My daughter lives in Lexington now, and she pays $80 a month. And she's running a heat pump. I don't know anybody can afford to run their heat pump anymore. This has to be denied, not reduced, but denied. That's it. Thank you.
Becky Young. Rockhouse Creek, Becky Young. Okay. If she comes back in, I'll give her another chance. Shannon Robinson.
Hello, how you doing? Shannon Robinson, here in Pikeville. The mayor started out with some coal statistics and talking about that. And there aren't any coal jobs now, but I feel like it's really not fair for this, because us, our parents, our grandparents, they worked in the coal mines, supplied the coal. It's where all the train tracks go to. It's where Ashland and all that. We built Kentucky Power. We built AEP. We're the ones that made this juggernaut of AEP. And now they're coming after us, the ones that built them, for more and more and more. And Mr. Little gave some great statistics, and so did Mr. Osborne. But yeah, I got the same thing. $3 billion net revenue. That's off their website. And it's just, I don't think it's fair. What's the phrase you keep using? Fair and just and reasonable. Thank you. I see nothing fair, just, or reasonable about it at all. And financial integrity for a net profit, not gross. The gross was $14 billion. Net profit, $3 billion company. I think they could use some financial responsibility and budgeting themselves. Another point. But that's all I want to say. Thank you.
And Adam Rice from Congressman Rogers' office, I believe.
Yes. Again, my name is Adam Rice. I'm a field rep with Congressman Rogers' office. Live down in Paintsville. One of the things we do understand that this is a state jurisdiction at the PSC, but that does not stop us from hearing from the constituents. Constituents we hear daily. We hear from that are struggling to pay their electric bills. We know that we are still feeling impacts from Obama's war on coal and the closure of our coal-fired power plant down in Louisa. We understand the loss of jobs that we've faced here in eastern Kentucky. The congressman has fought to cut funding to the EPA and has fought back against federal regulations that hurt our coal industry and our people. Again, we understand this is a state jurisdiction, but we will continue to fight against hurtful regulations at the federal level. We want to applaud you and thank you for coming out to the communities and listening to the people in our constituents. People from eastern Kentucky are proud of where we are from. Again, I stated I live in Paintsville. But we are proud of where we were from, and we do not want to leave. We thank you for coming out and listening to our constituents and our people, and we hope that you fully take that into consideration. Thank you.
Senator Wheeler.
Thank you, Chairman Hatton, and it's an honor to be with everyone here in this room tonight. And you know, you hear a lot of times that to really understand where we are right now, you got to understand the past, and we can't forget the past. And the past activities of AEP have placed us where we're here today. I did a brief study of some of the actions by AEP over the last 20 or 30 years to show that they have constantly taken, which show that they have constantly taken the advantage of folks within the Kentucky Power Service District. When they built their Hanging Rock Jefferson County transmission line in the 70s, it was approved by the PSC at a cost of $55 million and a 5% Kentucky Power cost share. They then went around the PSC, went to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. The project ended up costing $123 million, and they allocated 100% of that cost to Kentucky Power. Do you know where that line's at? It's all the way out in western Kentucky, servicing western Kentucky and Indiana. Has nothing to do with us. Once again, in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, the Rockport coal plant, that was constructed. AEP agreed to buy power from that plant. Rather they like to build plants. You know why they like to build plants? Because they get a rate of return when they build that asset. And you know what they can do with that rate of return? They can pass it on to you, all the customers. So when they talk about building, it's not just building for you, it's really in reality building for them. And so we have to be very careful when we analyze these projects as to whether or not, who are they truly benefiting? Are they benefiting the customer? Are they benefiting their bottom line of the fat cats on Wall Street in New York City? Now, I don't pretend to say that, it's all their fault. My uncle worked for AEP, still works for AEP. He's a good man, wonderful man, good family man. They've paid him good benefits. I don't begrudge the employees working for that company. They're just like each one of us. They get up and go to work every day and do their jobs. But at the same time, they're working for a larger company who I believe's interests are not the same as the people that they serve. They're not serving their communities, they're serving investment banks, people that are out there essentially exploiting people throughout our service area. It's been mentioned many times this evening about the coal plant in Louisa. We all remember that. My family, my grandparents lived in Ashland. I drove past it for 30-something years of my life. That plant provided a lot of jobs in my Senate district out in Louisa. Not only that, it used coal from this area that provided a lot of jobs as well. Now, they've told us they had to shut that plant down. That's actually not true. When they were being sued by the EPA over the coal plants, Big Sandy wasn't even mentioned. But when that case was settled, amazingly, AEP included Big Sandy in their settlement so that they could keep other plants in other areas going on, and we had to suffer. Again, we paid that bill for that plant that was already level with the ground for years. We were able to pass some legislation a couple years ago that lowered that a little bit. I know Chairman Hatton was in the legislature at that time. Representative Lafferty, it did do some good, but it sure didn't do enough. Right now, under a Federal Energy Regulatory Commission approved transmission plan, $15 million of expenses off the AEP network are allocated here to Kentucky for projects that have nothing to do with us. This is 5 to 7% of the electric bills that we pay are for cost and transmission that are elsewhere and that have nothing to do with Eastern Kentucky. The PSC, the Attorney General's office, actually recently went to try to fix that. Unfortunately, that request was denied. Hopefully that will be appealed. I think they are in the process of trying to appeal it, and so hopefully we can get some of the relief for the ratepayers here. I actually practiced law with Representative Lafferty for 18 years. She's a good person. And we both got down to the legislature about the same time. We make a living representing, people that are down on their luck. And it's rough when you see person after person after person walk into your law office, that's losing their truck. I know you don't need to put your life in things, but people deserve to live a decent life. People deserve to keep what they've paid for, keep what they earn. And when that's being sucked out of them, for in many cases, simply greed, it really does cause you to question, what has happened in this country. As Adam Rice from Congressman Rogers' office said, a lot of this dates back to the war on coal. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Barack Obama destroyed cheap energy in this country. He really did. I mean, if you don't believe it, you can look at his campaign advertising. He said, you can build a coal-powered plant and I'll bankrupt you. That's one time he didn't lie. I mean, he lied about Obamacare. He said my premiums would go down and I could keep my plan. But, he didn't lie that time. But, the problem is that AEP and other investor-owned utilities have followed him all along the way. You look at every one of these companies' corporate statements, they're all about ESG, going green, the Green New Scam. Basically, you know what the Green New Scam really is? They say it's to clean up the environment. We have the cleanest environment in the world. Okay, most of our emissions are actually stuff that's coming from overseas. that's being carried in here from other countries through the Gulf Stream and other types of weather phenomenons. We have some of the cleanest air and water in the entire world. And yet, people that sell these stupid ideas that are all nothing but scams, solar, all these panels are built in China, and then when they wear out after 20 years, we got to figure out where to put them in the landfill. And they're taking thousands and thousands of acres of farmland to do these projects. And yet that's right there in their mission statement. That's where they want to go. Well, I think the people of Eastern Kentucky are right when they say they don't want any part of it. I understand the cost of living's getting more expensive. I understand that costs have gone up over the last few years. I'm sure the cost of actually generating power has gone up over the last few years. But when they're approving this rate increase, I encourage the PSC, and I believe they will do this, to not only look at what the situation is now, but what's been sucked out of this area in the past. And that needs to be taken into consideration when they're looking at these rate increases. It's tough, actually, you may not believe it, but it's actually tough to do something about these bills in Frank because so much of this is being driven out of Washington. And I'm praying that we see some differing energy policy. I think we've seen some evidence of that, but it's tough. It's tough because, for 8 years, the Justice Department sold out coal companies, sold out, by agreeing to settlements and environmental regulations that really have no bearing in reality. And to undo a court settlement sometimes is difficult. And I'd say, I'm going to blame some of the interveners in this action that actually say they want to get your rates down. They're also part of the group that wants to shut every coal company down and shut every coal-powered power plant down. And, that's really what's driven rates up. You put any expert out there and say what is the cheapest, most reliable fuel to do generation with for electricity, everyone I'm going to tell you it's coal, at least if they're honest. But, we'll keep fighting the battle. But, it's a tough battle. And I appreciate everyone in this room for coming out here tonight to stand up for what's right. And I'm proud to represent you, and I'm proud to keep fighting for you in the state Senate, and will continue to do so.
Thank you. Linda Little. I think I'm able to read this one. Linda Little from Zebulon. Okay. All right. So that is the last person who indicated yes, but a whole lot of people indicated maybe. So I can go back through and call the maybes, or if we do it in an orderly way, people could just come forward. If you've changed your mind, you didn't put yes, but you'd like to speak, and we will stay here as long as people want to talk. Tell us your full name and your address, please, sir.
My name is Nathan Little. I'm from Virgie, Kentucky. I want to start off by saying no one's here because they can't afford to get here this evening. That $27 probably would get them here to Pikeville a few times, to be honest. But I want to start off by saying I don't have any confidence at all in a PSC that was appointed by Governor Beshear to listen to us in any way possible, because they've not listened to us yet, so I don't think they're going to try. But we got to try. So I come here today, and I come as a dad of 4 kids, a guy that works an everyday job and tries to pay my bills like everyone else, and don't have the luxury of doing all these special things. And I make really, really good money. I really do. I make a good living. But living, as you've heard everyone already say, it's hard to live in Eastern Kentucky. But the benefits of being in these mountains mean more to me than having to spend a lot of money. But AEP, Kentucky Power, they've already raped, pillaged, and plundered every single holler in this county and other counties all around us. They've scraped every bit of coal out of all mountains and now say it's too dangerous to get. But here we are now, and they want a 14.62% increase. I beg and I plead that you all will not agree to this increase. Why? Why? Whenever me and my wife, when we're down on money and we don't have enough money to go get certain things at the store, guess what we do? We pick and choose what we can get and what we can't. Don't you all? I think I'd asked everybody here tonight if you was to raise your hand if you're against this awful, awful rate increase. One of many, as Senator Wheeler has already said, one of many. Raise your hand if you're against this. Very few. And the ones that probably didn't raise their hand actually are probably too embarrassed to raise their hand. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's a travesty. I would be embarrassed to even ask for a rate increase. My bill is $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month. But you know what? I'm going to pull my wallet out and I'm going to pay it. Why? I have to. I can't go down the road and pick someone else to pay my bill for me or get on. I can't qualify for anything. I wish that AEP would grow a heart. And I hope to God, whenever you guys come down to make this decision, that you'll remember every little poor woman up in the head of these hollers, every little struggling mom of kids in the head of these hollers, and realize it ain't all about the money all the time. They've got plenty of money. And I don't see any benefit from us paying them all this money. Where have they helped us? Where have they gave to? How have they fed the hungry and the poor? They haven't. And they're not going to start today. So don't listen to their lies. Thank you.
My name's Scott Hall. I live at 77 Deskins Road. And I'm assuming a whole lot of their rate increase is due to downlines and the money they have to spend to keep them up. I see them on the transmission lines cutting this whole summer. Their lines are 200, 300 foot probably above the tree line. I don't see them cutting beside the road where the trees are laying on the line until that line falls down. Amen. You can call them 7 times and say that tree is going to fall. It's already cracking or whatever. It's in that line. And they won't come out and cut nothing until that tree downs the line. They done one just over here at Zebulon. They waited till it knocked the whole pole down. Then they come out and put a pole back. But they were called probably 7 times before it ever happened. They don't do preventive maintenance to stop it when it's going to do that because they want it to cost them money, because they give that income, that cost to you all and say, this is part of the reason we need that rate increase. I don't think they deserve one because they don't really do preventive maintenance to try and do anything to help you. You keep calling them about the one going to your house. They're not going to come out and cut it. I had a brother that worked for Asplin Tree Cutting Company. He said they won't let us cut it until it tears the line down. When the line falls, that's when they'll cut it. But they won't let us cut it beforehand. They do no preventive maintenance on anything that matters. And it's not just them wanting that rate increase. Mount Water just done a rate change. I don't know if you could call it an increase. They changed the way they bill it. But everybody's water went up, and Mountain Water's wanting another rate increase now that you've got to deal with. So, I mean, it's not just the power company, it's everybody. And I don't think they deserve it because they don't try and do anything to help you. You can call them 100 times and complain about a tree in your line going to your house, and they do nothing to help you. They won't come out and cut it till it falls up. When it tears it up, they'll come and cut it. They'll put the line back. Thank you.
My name's Frank Belcher. I'm from Elkhorn City. And concerning this rate increase, I'm not going to attack Kentucky Power or go into any of the numbers. That's been done very well by other people here far more educated than I. I would think that the Public Service Commission, being overall the electric RECCs and everything in the state, should be able to do a comparative between these other electric providers and see what it's costing other electric companies across the state to produce the same services that Kentucky Power is doing. And from that alone, draw a conclusion where this rate increase is reasonable or not. Is it cost, what are these other companies doing at their rates? They can produce power cheaper than Kentucky Power, and is it reasonable, the thing that Kentucky Power is asking here? And also, there's been a lot of talk about poverty in this area, and this is true. There's old people, feeble old people out there in these hollers that are going to be hurt bad by this. They're barely surviving right now. This company has no heart. It does not care about them. And it's just not just the power. It's food. It's the water. Every utility is asking for more. It's taxes. It's everything is going up. I've spent the better part of the day trying to negotiate a better price on my homeowner's insurance because it's going to go up $600 next year. It's went up every year for the past 3 years, and it's $600. That's $600. I'm on fixed income like a lot. That's $600 I'm going to have to take from somewhere else to pay for that because I want to have insurance on my home. If it comes down to it, I can just go without homeowner's insurance and take my chances. I can't electricity. And if you don't pay these people, they will cut you off. So I implore you people, I'm glad you're here because I hear so many people complain every time there's some kind of a rate increase come up. Public Service Commission, people just go, Public Service Commission, big deal. They might as well not even exist. They're not going to help us. That's what people say. Now, you talked about a big company like this. I work for EQT out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a natural gas company. I know how they think. They're about, and it's been said here, they're about the shareholder, the bottom line. And that's what this is all about, to push profits up for the shareholder, the dividends. And at the end of the day, around here, there's people we're talking about that's going to get hurt that we'll have to do without. And how many rate increases has this company got in the past 5 to 10 years already? How much more? And it's that way with everything with this inflation thing right now. How much more does everybody have to be satisfied? And I looked it up, and in 1971, President Nixon implemented a rate freeze in this country. It was a freeze on wages and prices, on everything. And if the state government in Frankfort can't help us, we're going to have to beseech our federal officials to intervene, whether the state wants it or not, because we got to have some relief from this greed. It's rampant inflation in this country that's about to bankrupt the poor, push people out on the street. Now enough is enough with this greed. And that's what it is with this inflation. It's just pure, unadulterated greed.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Little, and I'm from Virgie. My dad was an employee for AEP for 35 years. He he retired in 2008. There was a time whenever he was proud to be an AEP employee. I think that there was a lot of pride that most of those employees had with being able to provide in this area. It was a good job, and they did a good job for our community. But things, I think, have changed within AEP and its culture and how it has taken advantage of our region. In 2021, AEP made an attempt to sell off the Kentucky Power segment of their organization. The FERC actually declined that in 2023. Since that time, AEP has done nothing but raise the rates time and time again. One could conclude that AEP has no interest in serving this area. They have tried to sell off this area. They couldn't. It was blocked by the federal regulators. So what do they do next? They take as much as they can take. So I am asking the PSC, please deny this request. Do not give us any increase. And also, I would like for our state government to look at how they can write legislation to require AEP to divest all of their assets and provide us with a local co-op that can help keep our prices down. And as the lady said there, it's a nonprofit. We don't have to worry about that bottom line and how they are trying to impact it, because that money comes back to all of the payers. Thank you.
I'm really short. But I came tonight because I didn't know what to expect. And I knew and I know that everyone in this area, there are no exceptions, that would not love to talk to you guys. And we appreciate this opportunity so much. I have wanted to do this in the past, but I didn't know how to go about it. I happened to see your post on Facebook, and I appreciate that because I'm here. And I have reposted it in hopes that a lot of people would show up tonight to voice their concerns. But I have lived most of my life in Pike County and worked here. Well, I worked in West Virginia, but next door. And I know the neighbors and my family, and I know why they're not here. One reason is because they don't know how to go about getting here. We are, some of us, that ignorant. I'm sorry to say, but we are. And what I want to say is for the ones who are not here, and some of that reason is because they feel like that their voices are never heard. That people in eastern Kentucky are looked down on. They are thought of as being ignorant and can't take care of ourselves. But I think that I'm so happy that the people that are here, because there should be at least one person from every household in Pike County should be here tonight. I don't know why they're not, other than the fact that they don't feel like that their voice would be heard. And I just want to say that for those people who are not here, because I know that they do feel like everybody here has explained and said, but they just don't feel like they would be heard. And I so appreciate all these statistics. That was wonderful to hear, and I really appreciate you guys being here and that these people have shown up and that they have done so much work to share. Well, I was too lazy to go look and find out for myself, and I appreciate that a lot. I think it's very helpful. What you guys are doing is so helpful for people in these areas. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ma'am, if you said your name, I missed it, ma'am. I missed your name if you said it at the beginning. Thank you.
My name's Madison Compton. I live on Robinson Creek. Basically, I just want to talk to everybody in the audience. We have allowed this stuff to go on for years. Not only with the people we've elected, and I'm not saying anything about this group right here, but we need to have accountability, not only from the companies, but from our elected officials. We need to have someone to speak on our behalf, because in America, and I know certainly here, young men and women are becoming more radical by the minute. Why? Because we can't afford to live. I have 4 kids. You know how many times I've had to do an extension on my power bill? Too many to count. I work a good job. I make good money. My wife works a job. She makes good money. I have 4 kids to take care of. I'm speaking probably on deaf ears right now, because whatever I say, it will not make a difference. But I will tell you this. You said in the beginning, you are the judges. Well, we're the jury. And there's going to be accountability one day for these things. And that's all I got to say.
Hi, my name is Rick Courtney. I'm a lifelong resident of Elkhorn City, Kentucky. I'm an Appalachian American. So I speak Appalachian American. I don't speak English. Back in the 60s, before the coal boom, took school teacher. They taught 3 things in school: reading, writing, arithmetic, and Route 23 North to the factories. Coal boom hit, everybody stayed around, everybody done good. Starting in 2000, they changed their curriculum. They taught reading, writing, Route 23 south to Tennessee. I'm a dual state resident. I own property in Tennessee. My entire utility bills in Tennessee don't match my property here in Kentucky. It's more here. I pay everything: power, water, all utilities in Tennessee for what one power bill is here in Kentucky. And that's why people are leaving the state in droves. Thank you.
My name's Levita Sloan. I'm Raccoon. And I come tonight to talk to you because I've got 3 children I've raised. I've got 13 grandchildren. I've got one child that's got 6 children. And his power bill ranges anywhere in the wintertime from $700 to $900 a month. And then trying to feed his family. I do accounting and taxes, and I work with the public. I hear people talking about how their power is, and I can't understand how they can raise it like this right here and say that they're charging you for maintenance. We don't own the company, they do. And I can't understand why they want to raise that after all they're getting now. And when you put ours together and add up the whole family, we're paying around $2,000 to $3,000 on power. I can pull the power and the bills and let you look at them. But then I have people that's coming in, and one man told me his mother drew $800-something a month for her income. Her power was $935. There was nothing left for food. So if this is raised, this is going to be worse than what they're already looking at. I thank you all.
Okay, I don't see anybody else coming forward, but I'm willing to.
I just have one small thing to say. I understand I said it twice.
I have made the terrible mistake of letting people talk twice before and really regretted it, but I'll let you say one thing.
Yeah, it's very small.
I mean, really, it has
understand that.
been a
I wanted to
disaster
ask.
because
I wanted
then
to ask.
everybody does it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
One thing.
So one thing that I want to say is there's nonprofits in the area, kind of like Community Action, and they pay people's electric bills every year because people can't pay them. That's one thing that I would say to consider when you make this decision is how this raise would affect people that can't pay their electric bills and would have to reach out to nonprofits to try to pay it, because these nonprofits don't they only have a limited amount of funds, so not everyone can get them. So that's the only thing that I have to say, and that's one thing that I would consider.
All right, so you will have at least 3 more opportunities for in-person. Hazard, Ashland, and Frankfort the day of our hearing. We've put it on social media, in the newspapers. You can definitely call the Public Service Commission if you have any more questions. If you have specific complaints about down power lines and things like that, the Kentucky Public Service Commission also has a hotline you can call for customer assistance, where we'll contact utilities on your behalf. That's not just for power companies, it's for all the utilities. And then there's also an online complaint process for things like that don't have to do with a case. If you do want to send written or email comments, make sure and put case number 2025-00257 on your email or your letter. If you have petitions and things like that, you can send them in. And this recording of tonight's public comments should be up if you want to watch it or have neighbors watch it or anything else like that. Probably in about 24 hours, it'll be up on our website. And we appreciate everyone coming out. We appreciate the civility tonight and the courtesy that you showed one another, even though I know emotions are high. And we are we're happy to listen when you guys have comments that you want to make to us. And like I said, there'll be other opportunities. And if there's nothing further, then we'll adjourn for tonight.